welcome back to another. Hey guys, what's up? It's me, BizKit, or aka Judge 2, and I'm here to talk about my thoughts of the KBB25 Season 2 Seeding Round Edition 25 KBB. Kick back. First of all, I just gotta say how cool it is to even be judging this event. I remember being so inspired by this event back in 2021. 2021 was a good year for looping, for some reason. Wildcard stage was great. The seeding rounds were great. The battles that I've judged so far have been really cool. You guys will see them later. So I'm here to talk about the seeding rounds, everything regarding them, the high highs, the low lows, even the potential controversies. As a judge for this event, I believe in full transparency regarding my decisions. I want to make sure that, you as a viewer understand why I made that choice. And I also think the feedback could be good for, potential loopers or the loopers that were competing to watch and maybe see what they need to work on and what they did well. So everything I'm about to say in this video is meant with the utmost respect and meant to be purely constructive. And if you commenters have anything to say about these seeding rounds in the comments, make sure that you are following that as well. Be respectful and be constructive. This battle is online, and the internet in general, especially in the beatbox community, we can get a little too comfortable, with how we treat our artists. Try and remember that these are real human beings that we're talking about, who are putting their art out into the world for thousands of people to see. Just be nice. It's really not that hard. That being said, I'm going to give you my top 8 for the KBB seeding rounds, starting at the bottom with number 8. Where do I start with this one? I had Yesweed in last place because it felt like that's the place that he wanted to get. I understand that a big part of Yesweed's personality is like this trolly, nonchalant, I don't give a shit, like kind of persona. But as I'm going to talk about with later competitors, the context for these kind of things matter a lot. So seeding rounds are a really interesting part of the competition because there's kind of no real risk happening. Like nobody's getting eliminated. All the seeding round really does is just determine who you're gonna battle in the bracket, and I'm pretty sure that Yesweed feels comfortable going against anyone. So to him, I could understand how the seeding round might feel like a waste of time. But when I was judging this seeding round and I'm watching it and I'm hearing it and I get that vibe from him, I'm like, damn, I guess this is a waste of time. Like, I don't feel good about watching this. I feel like as a judge, I'm getting my time wasted. Because if you don't care, then why should I? And obviously that doesn't feel amazing to say, but the energy that you put out is the energy that you're gonna receive right back. But even just stepping aside from the kind of weird vibe that this seeding round gave me, it just wasn't all that pleasing to listen to for me. Yes, Yesweed's presence is very strong and there are some cool technical bits in here, but going from one section to the other, there was kind of like a disconnect. And the moments that could have been really impactful kind of felt muted because of this jokey attitude. He would either put a joke before or after, and it would kind of dampen the cool shit that was happening before. The melodies and harmonies were really dissonant and just kind of off-putting. There wasn't a moment that I would go back to and unironically listen to, oh yeah, let me just Obviously the joke of it all is that it's haha, this is noise, it's unlistenable, yay. But I'm really not trying to hear that right now. There's a time and a place for that attitude. Maybe live it would go harder, but I don't think for a seeding round that this was the correct place. We all know Yesweed is very talented and very capable. He wouldn't be GBB champ otherwise, obviously. But seeing the amount of effort that the other competitors went through to, make re-listenable, coherent pieces, it would feel disingenuous to give Yesweed anything other than last for me, personally. I'm sure he's gonna smash it at GBB anyway, and this is probably just a side quest to him, but still. Moving on to number 7, which for me is Unhinged seeding round is really interesting to me. I want to get the obvious things out of the way. There's a weird timing in the drums. The drums just kind of feel slightly off to me, but the potential for these ideas in the drops and stuff, really nice. One of the cleaner mixes in the seeding round. I can see the effort that he put into the lyric writing and the drop making and just making a high energy track, but something about it just wasn't clicking for me. We talked about Yasweed's personality and his presence when he performs. Very trolly, very ironic. That's a presence that I can feel, and I'm like, yeah, that's Yasweed, you know, for better or worse. It's strong and it's true to himself. Unhinged, on the other hand, I'm not sure I see the whole picture just yet. I can see the kind of music that he's inspired by and his source of inspiration for lyricism, the most obvious ones being Joey Valence and Bray, but I'm not sure that I see Unhinged yet. I feel like the style that Unhinged is going for is very much established, but he as an artist has not established himself well enough in that style just yet. And it's really hard. Like, building an identity as an artist is one of the hardest things. It takes a lot of time, a lot of experience with performing and just experimenting and figuring out what you like. But when building an identity, you have to ask yourself a lot of questions. And if I'm Unhinged, the question that I want to be asking right now is, how seriously do I want people to take me? The beat and the production is very high energy and very like in your face, and the bars kind of match that, this like triumphant, boastful persona. But there are other times where the vocals and the delivery of the vocals kind of come off as like a little on the goofier side. And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of that stuff. I think it's really interesting. But if you're gonna do it, you have to commit to it and be consistent about it. As a listener, I'm wondering if you really think you're the best to ever do it, like you say, or if you're just horsing around. Speaking of this kind of disconnected feeling, the sample of the next episode by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg really like took me out of the performance a little bit. I have no problem with sampling or even covers to a degree, as long as they're done tastefully or they have their own artistic spin on it. But up to this point, and like until the last 30 seconds, it was a completely original song. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Dre appeared. And I'm just like, why? Why is this here? And then he goes on to rap the melody from the song, and he's da 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 da. It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G. And I'm like, bro, you're not Snoop Dogg. Why are you saying that? I thought this was the seeding round of Unhinged, KBB25. And choosing that moment to end the performance kind of left me questioning what the everything else before it was. Overall, I just think there's a certain maturity that Unhinged needs to tap into. I just feel as though he needs to do a bit more development and, you know, asking those important questions about his identity and, you know, his artistry as a whole. Big up to Unhinged. I'm happy the USA Loopers are, you know, coming out strong. Moving on to number 6. This guy Mokbay, man, he's a weird guy. I like it. The stuff that Mokbay gets up to on the Mark II is kind of just like unlike anything I've ever heard. Case in point being his unanimously first place wild card for this competition. He's super ambitious and outside the box when it comes to sound design and structure. And there are moments in this seeding round where the concepts like are really high level and they really work for me. And I'm thinking to myself, like, who even thinks of that sort of thing? But the round as a whole felt more about the concepts than it did about the track. I'll give you an example. Jacob Collier. He's one of my favorite artists like currently, and he's probably one of the most gifted musicians like of our generation. But sometimes even he struggles with this. He gets caught up in the what of the music and not the why of the music. He'll do the craziest, like most creative chord changes or rhythm switches, and I'm like, wow, that's really impressive. But the track itself starts to feel like an afterthought. The same goes for Mokbay here. Like, he's really smart and he has these really outside the box concepts. The concept for this seeding round being like the chord progressions and the really unique voicings. But the rest of the track felt like an excuse to do those chords rather than this is a track, it just so happens to have cool chords. And you can flex, you know, your chord knowledge and you can have these crazy bass lines. That doesn't mean it's gonna sound good for the overall piece. And as a listener, sometimes I want to just kind of, you know, passively listen and not feel like I'm doing homework. Because of this, you know, aside from all the really cool and creative moments, there was nothing about this seeding round that was like calling me to come back and give it another watch. But because of his crazy approach and unique techniques on the Mark II, and just his ability to commit to the idea, so like, yes, this is what I'm doing, I couldn't give it anything lower than 6th. It was weird because I felt like he took risks, but he played it safe at the same time. Sometimes that's all you need a seeding round to be. Moving on to number 5. Guys, I Fear You're My Homie For Real is my song of the summer. Mr. Hasuo takes a very minimalistic approach in this seeding round. He's just coming at you with a buttery smooth mix and an infectious original hook and melody. And that's it. That's all. That's just it. He just dropped a song, you know? Whereas Mokbei's approach was to just show off all these crazy techniques, Mr. Hasuo kind of did the opposite. Hasuo's technical performance in this seeding round is probably the lowest out of all the seeding rounds. But the track doesn't call for anything more than what it already has going for it. He gives the song space to breathe and digest, and that, for me, leads to like a very replayable and catchy experience. His vocals can be a little bit shaky at times, and when, you know, a track is as bare bones as this one, those things can be a little bit glaring, but the commitment to this like wholesome, upbeat vibe is so refreshing and unlike any of the loop station rounds that we've seen so far. But then we have like 45 seconds left, and it's like, now what? And he's like, I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna do Fiend by Travis Scott. Now I know what you're thinking, BizKit, it's literally just a cover. Why wouldn't you put this in last place? And I'm gonna remind you that, like with Yasweed and Unhinged, the context of why and where he's doing it is very important. The context is he already spent the first like 2.5 minutes giving us a completely original song. And this was a super minimalistic approach, but once he was done with that approach, he was like, oh, by the way, I can also do this. I'm just gonna cover one of the most popular kind of meme-y songs right now, and I'm gonna do it in under 30 seconds. And that's a display of technique. Do You're My Homie For Real and Fiend have anything in common? No, but that's why the joke lands. If he covered Fiend for the whole 3 minutes and 30 seconds, then like, yeah, obviously you're last place. But it's not about the song that he's covering, and it's more about how he can build a replica like perfectly, accurately in such a short time frame. It's a demonstration of a completely different skill set while he spent the last 2.5 minutes giving you a completely different side of himself. So no, doing a cover does not automatically equal last place in this case. Much like Yasweed's energy, this part at the end kind of felt like, yeah, here you go. I don't really care. I'm just throwing this away because why not? But it was done tastefully while still remaining impressive, and the joke landed for me. I would love to seed this higher because of the earworm that is You're My Homie For Real. For real, it's such a bop, guys. But the cohesiveness of my top 4, like just song structure wise, along with the technical ability that they display, you know, it makes sense that this doesn't break into the top 4, but it will round off the top of my bottom half. But stop sleeping on Mr. Hasuo. That's my homie for real. Kicking off with the top 4, starting with
I should have saved my stupid luck. Should have read between the keys.
guys. TNEB is back. As far as composing and structuring loops go, TNEB is one of the best to ever do it. Which makes sense given that he's the person in this competition that has been using Boss equipment the longest. From the beginning to the end, there is always something happening. And the way that TNEB layers his tracks, given the limitations of the 202, is like so creative and like mind-blowing. This kind of raw looping style stands out so much in a meta dominated by pre-sequenced melodies and auto-tune. It feels so much more original because it strips back to the essence of what looping is. His technical ability when it comes to the timing of layering certain things as the song is progressing, coupled with the really thoughtful lyric writing and a really powerful vocal performance, this is probably one of TNEB's best compositions to date for me. That being said, sometimes it does feel like the sheer amount of things going on kind of dilutes the overall mix. Things start to become very busy, especially towards the end, like in the last minute, and it becomes a little harder as a listener to really focus on like what I should be listening to. There's a difference between having a full mix and a mix full of stuff. And it felt like at this point the mix had too much stuff going on. I also understand the desire to end the routine with a really high energy drop, but I don't know, something about the last drop didn't click for me with the lo-fi and the tremolo. Maybe it was the rate of the tremolo. It just kind of felt like off to me. And when everything else in the track was so like tightly structured and like really well thought out, like super well prepared, this ending kind of felt a little bit just like tacked on at the end. So this like drop that is supposed to feel really impactful ended up kind of falling a little bit flat for me compared to the rest of the thing. But overall, this is a masterclass in looping and what looping is, what looping was. Just a super refreshing like blast from the past always with him. These are the roots of the art form that we all love. And I'm really glad that CNEB is still around and battling and showing us that. Big up to the Grandmaster. Moving on to number 3. This guy, MH, is a true artist in every sense of the word. This is somebody who has solidified his sound and identity to a T. You can hear a track of his and instantly like, yep, that's MH. There he is. The delicate nature of his vocal performance, the soft but like clean, jazzy chords, the bit crushed drum kit, like he just knows what he wants and he does it. This round probably has the cleanest mix down of all the seeding rounds. I'm obsessed with this vocal chain. As far as the structure of the round, it does take quite a bit of time to get going though. But once it does get going and all the pieces start to fall into place, I'm like, yes, here we are. But when you put it side by side with a round like TNEB's, who TNEB from beginning to end is making something happen and it's just a consistent flow, it's like, yeah, I guess there is like a minute of this round of MH that I guess I can kind of just skim through or skip. But the track as a whole is so grounded in its identity that you can't deny like how great it is. Maybe this would have been higher for me if 1, he didn't go overtime so much, and 2, the building up phase was a little bit more compelling. But all in all, this was such a great display of how to be secure in your own artistry. Really excited to see the next evolution of MH. Moving on to my number 2 spot. Now I know what you're thinking. BizKit, you only seeded this round so high because it's rhythm. First of all, yeah, so what? I'll do it again. Second of all, yes, obviously I like rhythm a lot, but if anything, that makes me a tougher judge on it because I know what good rhythm is supposed to sound like. And I seeded this high because this is great rhythm. It's barely even loop station rhythm. It just sounds like a produced track. Red Frost and I have a lot of the same inspirations when it comes to this kind of genre. So like I can clock that, but he still finds a way to make it his own thing. Like try and name somebody else doing it like him right now. Try and name somebody using the loop station the way Red Frost is using the loop station. Nobody else is attempting this genre and like nailing the sound design, nailing the nuances of why the genre feels the way it does. Also, Red Frost is just one of those loopers that like I'm watching and I genuinely don't know what's going on. Some loopers I'm like, oh, okay, I can see how that affect Red Frost. No, what? Huh? And I think a big part of why his looping style is so hard to understand is because it doesn't confine to the meta at all. And that makes listening to a Red Frost routine just a more unique listening experience overall. Crazy dark atmosphere, really smooth transitions, and high energy stank face inducing drops. This seeding round checked all the boxes for me. Maybe the one thing I can nitpick is the mix. In the drums, sometimes didn't feel so impactful. It sounded like weirdly stereo. I don't know if that was Inky's doing in the mix because I've heard this routine before and it sounds amazing. Check out Dioxide by Red Frost on YouTube. But like other than that, that's really my only complaint about this round. Rhythm is such a hard genre to execute and let alone execute well and like accurately. But Red Frost just time and time again just understands his place in the rhythm production scene. Musically, it might not be your cup of tea, but there's no denying the skill here and the dedication to the craft. Big up to Red Frost, man. I'll see you at Loop Mayhem. Woo, our set's gonna be crazy. And without further ado, my number 1 spot is going to the one, the only, Leonard.
I'm gonna lose myself in every moment.
Man, what a comeback story for this guy, huh? From barely being in the competition as a runner-up to getting first seed in the competition. He proved he deserves to be here. There's no doubt about that. This is probably, in my opinion, Leonard's most mature performance yet. The building section of this routine, very compelling and interesting throughout the whole way. Once he was done and the vocals came in, the bass and the chords got half speeded, I actually got chills. It was crazy. And then the drops were super impactful and the melody was like really contagious and awesome. Also, again, I don't know how much Inky helped with this in the mix, but this is like the cleanest mix I've ever heard from Leonard. So many good things about this track. My main favorite thing being the one-shots that he would include, making the track feel more dynamic with the snare, and then the switch to the kick and the snare and that halftime breakdown. Really smart stuff. The whole time the track just felt super dynamic and bouncy and alive, and I was so entertained. And as usual, you know how Leonard is. He's going to give you an electrifying performance physically every single time. He's a joy to watch. This seeding round ticked every single box for me, and it showed a refinement in Leonard's style that feels really natural and very nice to see. So this is my first place for the Kickback 25 seeding round, and I have no problem saying that. Until I found out it was a cover. Yes, it is true. Leonard's melody and chord progression are from the song I Got You by Mo Falk. And I did not know this until his seeding round was released on Swiss Beatbox. And by that point, I had already judged it. Now, realistically, had I known this beforehand, probably would have knocked it down a few spots. But I didn't. And now I feel a little weird. So now we as the Loop community need to have like a serious talk about probably one of the more controversial topics in the scene, and that is covers. In just the seeding round of the KBB alone, we have had 3 examples of samples or covers, and they've all ranged in acceptability, in my opinion. The first one I mentioned was Unhinged, who used the melody from the Dr. Dre song, The Next Episode. Whether or not I think that this belonged in the routine, that's besides the point. He chose an iconic melody, everybody knows this melody, and he used it with the lead drop sound that he was using just, a few seconds earlier. He even said it's the D-O-double-G, Snoop Dogg, so he's crediting the artist like as it's going. This use of sampling is questionable in a structured format, but ultimately it's a sample and it's cute and it's a little nod. No problem. The second one I mentioned was Mr. Asuo, who did an incredibly accurate rendition of Fiend by Travis Scott. He doesn't use this to claim it as an original, he uses it as a punchline for a meme joke thing. In the context of it, he said, I have 30 seconds left, let me just flex on you real quick. Here's a song you all know, I made it in 30 seconds. This is fine. It's purely a flex, and he's not pretending that this song is his own original work. It very clearly is not. So these are examples of maybe questionable, but ultimately okay ways to use samples in your loop routines. What I believe is not an okay use of sampling is taking a melody, changing a few lyrics, and then trying to pass it off as your own original work without mentioning or crediting the artist that you were inspired by. In the loop station category, originality is such a huge factor in scoring that when things like this slip through the cracks, it kind of feels like cheating the system a little bit. And it puts me as a judge in a very sticky situation because I can't possibly know every song to ever exist, and I can't proof check that, this isn't plagiarized. We can be skeptical on whether it's an original or not, but we're not Shazam, Not that Shazam. We're not the app that can tell us what a song is just from hearing it. Ultimately, we as judges are trusting you, the competitors, to bring an original product every time because that's what you are expecting to be scored on. And yes, there is a big difference between inspiration and covering. Martin Bonatti's GBB wildcard this year, that's inspiration. My GBB Elim, Amber, That's inspiration. Come to think of it, it's actually funny because I got first seed using inspiration from a track, but it's different. I promise. I've always given credit to Flume, the original artist behind the beat Amber. Maybe I didn't do it on stage in the moment, but it's also not a one-to-one cover. Aside from the chord progression that I make with my voice instead of synths or Osbot, the lyrics are different, the drops are different, the textures are different, the timings are different. I took a few components from the original song and transformed it into something else. That is being inspired. What inspiration does not sound like is playing the original track and the inspired track side by side and not hearing a difference. If he prefaced the start of his round by saying like something like shout out to Mo Falk, maybe I would feel differently. But finding out about the original after I already scored it as what I thought was an original work, I felt a little bit cheated. I felt a little bit blindsided. It did take a little bit of value out of the performance for me personally. Basically, all I'm trying to say is it's okay to do covers, it's okay to do samples, but please cite your sources and put your own spin on it, or have it make sense within the context of which you are performing the cover. Don't get me wrong, I'm still super impressed with Leonard's Seeding Round and his performance, but this is such a hot topic in the Loop Station community for like the past couple years now, and I felt like I had to weigh in with my 2 cents. Ooh, that was a lot of words. That was a lot of words I just said. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for listening to me yap for like, I don't even know how long this video is gonna be. If you have any takes about this battle or anything you disagree or maybe agree with me on, post about it in the comments, and hopefully we can have a respectful and constructive and nice discussion about it. That's gonna do it for me today. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my insights, and I hope you enjoy the battles coming in the near future. See you at the next thing, and bye-bye. Love you. Whew.